Okay, here we have the 9-4 work together. We're going to journalize some more transactions. Some of the ones in here that we're going to journalize, we've got a transaction where we're going to journalize a purchase that also includes a 2% discount. So we're going to journalize that transaction and reflect the 2% discount. And then we're going to journalize one with credit card fees. And then our last transaction, replenishment of petty cash. So we'll journalize the receipts that are in the petty cash. So we have our transactions on this tab. For our petty cash transaction that we're going to journalize, we have our petty cash report. So it has our expenses in the petty cash report. And then if we need to look at any official account titles, we have on the last tab here, the COA, the chart of accounts, or account titles. So let's start off here with October 1st, wrote a check to Bilton Communications for telephone bill for $124, check 521. Of course, we have our journal. So the first thing we need to do is look at our chart of accounts, find our account title for telephone bill, and we can look at our expenses. There's no account for telephone bill, but there is one for utilities expense. So we're going to use utilities expense as the account title for the telephone bill. So we have our journal. Start with the date, October 2nd. The account title, utilities expense. And then the check. Check was check number 521 for our check number. And since the column already indicates check number in the title of the column, we don't need the C to indicate it was paid for by check, because the automatic assumption here is unless otherwise notated, everything was paid for with a check. So all we need is check number 521. And then the amount was $124. So for the general account, for utilities expense, that's going to be a debit of $124, because remember, it falls underneath that umbrella of owner's equity. It decreases owner's equity for an expense, so the decrease is on the debit. And then we wrote a check from the checking account, which is the same as cash. So our last column here at the end, cash credit. So remember, cash is an asset. A decrease in an asset makes it a credit entry. So that's why we only have cash credit, because these are all for payments. Okay, so the next one is October 3rd, wrote a check on account to Gray Manufacturing, covering purchase invoice number 523 for $1,640, less a 2% discount. So we're going to subtract 2% off of that for a discount. The check is $522. So I wrote on account to Gray Manufacturing. Hopefully at this point, this one you don't need to look up the account title for. But if you do, it's on the chart of accounts. So a check was written on account, so that means it was a liability. So that is going to be down here. Typically, it's going to be under the liabilities. But in this case, we have a little bit extra going on with this chart of accounts. We have an accounts payable ledger that we're using for this worksheet. So under the accounts payable ledger, the only account title we're going to use is Gray Manufacturing. Because the assumption is going to be that since it's listed as an accounts payable ledger account, the default title would be accounts payable Gray Manufacturing, but since it's already listed as a ledger account, we don't need to use the words accounts payable. So we're just going to put in Gray Manufacturing. So put the date. Gray Manufacturing. Inc. There you go. It turned red on you just like mine did. I didn't have the period, so make sure you get the period on there to abbreviation for Inc. Incorporated. The check number 522. So 522. Okay, so now we're going to use this column accounts payable debit. We're not going to use the general columns because this is an accounts payable specific account on an accounts payable ledger. We have our own column for those types of accounts. So we're going to use the accounts payable debit. And once again, this is going to decrease the amount that's owed for the account payable. So the total that was owed for the account was $1640. So we'll put $1640 here. But the whole $1640 did not have to be paid because it was paid during a period of time where they got a 2% discount for paying it. We don't know what the circumstances are, but it's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. But it says in the directions they're going to get a 2% discount. So we're going to subtract 2%. So it's 1640 times 0.02 to figure out what 2% is. So there's going to be a discount of $32.80. So then the total cash that's going to be coming out of the account because of the check that was written, the check was only going to be written for, so the 1640 minus 3280, the discount that's given, 1607.20. So a cash credit, 1607.20. So cash account's going to decrease by 1607.20. And then the next one, wrote a check to LPF Manufacturing for merchandise with a list price of $15.75. Check 523. So let's look at our cash, our chart of accounts. Don't see anything for merchandise. So we'll just put this in as a purchase. So this will end up going into the purchases ledger. So we'll put purchase. Get that S on the end there. And check 523. So the items that were purchased, it says miscellaneous items, but the assumption is, once again, those are some type of asset for the business. So they have some kind of value. So we're going to have an increase in assets of $15.75. So remember, it's so an increase in assets is entered as a debit entry. And then a check was used, so cash is going to be coming out of the checking account. So decrease in an asset. Let's get under cash credit, $15.75. Okay, so now we have on the 12th, recorded the direct withdrawal of credit card fees from the bank, $65, memo 77. So let's look at our check or cash chart of accounts. We do have on the expenses list credit card fee expense account. So that's the account title we're going to use. 12th. Credit card fee expense. No, this wasn't paid for with a check. It was automatically taken out of the account per memo 77. So this time we're going to need that M. So put M77. This is an expense, just like the utilities expense, so it's going to go as a debit entry. It's $64. So 64, and taken out of the account, the checking account, decrease, it's cash credit entry of $64. So we get to the 16th, wrote a check on account to Westland Supply covering purchase invoice 516, $426. No discount this time. Check 524. Start the date. Just like Gray Manufacturing, it's on its own accounts payable ledger, so we'll just put in the company name, Westland Supply. It's check number 524. And we'll enter this down in the accounts payable debit column. It's $426. And then we've got to show our decrease in cash for the payment. So 426 cash credit. Okay, so now we have our last one on the 31st. Recorded the replenishment of petty cash fund on October 31st, check 525. Put 31st here. Go ahead and put the check number, then we'll go to the cash or the petty cash report and get all the details off of that, because we don't have the amount yet either. Okay. So the 31st for the petty cash, and it's going to be check 525. So let's go check out our petty cash report. So we have supplies office, supplies store, a miscellaneous receipt. And we can't forget about our cash short and over. In this case, it was short. So we go start with supplies office, $48.15. Goes in the debit column since it's an expense. The next one was supplies store. We don't need the check number for this because all of these are going to be on the same check. So we've already got that check number listed. We only need to list it once, and we're going to show only the amount of check once in the cash credit column. So how much was supplies store? $57.18. Then we have miscellaneous. I don't know why I always accidentally stick that H in there. There we go. Miscellaneous. Well, oh, silly me. I forgot to put the word expense on the end of there. I'm sure I spelled that right. There we go. Miscellaneous expense. Accidentally leave off that important word there. $47.64. Then the last one, cash, short and over. In this case, it was short. $1.05. So now to get the total amount that the check was written for, we just need to add those items up. So $48.15 plus $57.18 plus $47.64 plus $105. $154.02 for our cash credit entry. Just making sure there weren't any other steps. All right. So that is the 9-4 work together